In this video, we're going to distinguish producer surplus and profit. This is a distinction that a lot of people confuse. A lot of people think that the firm's surplus, their producer surplus, is the same as their profit, all right? But they have an important key difference, okay? So when we define producer surplus, it's that difference between what the firm can produce a good at in terms of cost, their marginal costs, and the price that they get for each unit of their output. Okay, so it's that difference between what they can sell the good for and what it costs them to make it. All right. We can write this mathematically as producer surplus is the difference between total revenue and variable costs. Okay, that gets us that difference between the cost of production and total revenue from selling it. All right. Because marginal cost tends to slope upward, most most firms are going to have some output that is being sold at a price above their cost of production, okay, but some also below that. Right. So if we look graphically, we can see this relationship of the difference between marginal cost of production, our red curve here, and the price, what the firm can sell the output at, gives us producer surplus, right? Our left-hand side graph, though, that's difficult to calculate. So we can actually identify producer surplus using average variable costs instead. And that allows us to have a much simpler calculation, which is that of an area of a rectangle. Okay, so with this definition of producer surplus, we can see how it is importantly distinct from profit, right? Producer surplus is that comparison between total revenue and variable costs. All right, that gets us producer surplus. Profit, remember, is the difference between total revenue and total cost, right? And total cost, again, is that sum of fixed costs and variable costs. So note what is different here about our profit formula, right? We have total revenue minus fixed costs minus variable costs. So there's that additional term of fixed costs, whereas producer surplus is just total revenue minus variable costs, okay? So the key difference, and this is something that I have students forget every year, the key difference between producer surplus and profit is that profit considers fixed cost. Profit considers fixed cost, producer surplus does not. Okay. So if you had producer surplus, but you didn't know the firm's profit, you would just need to subtract fixed costs from it to get what profit the firm is earning. Okay. What this means is that we'll see firms operating without making profits when they're earning a loss. But if they ever get zero producer surplus or negative, they will shut down, right? If they are not earning more in what they get from the selling of the good compared to what it costs them to make it, they're going to shut down, right? That's that shutdown decision that we're seeing, right? They shut down if there's no producer surplus. We can transform our relationship between total revenue and variable cost by pulling out that quantity variable again, and that gets us that firm shutdown decision, right? That comparison between price and average variable cost. Here is producer surplus graphed on a market, right? You've probably seen this from principles. And we're able to show producer surplus here because our supply curve, remember, is just an aggregate marginal cost curve. So we've added up all of the marginal cost curves of all the firms in the industry. And since they're all price takers, we just compare the price that the good is selling at to their marginal costs. And that tells us the producer surplus earned in the aggregate by firms in that industry. We could alternatively do it by adding up the producer surplus of each individual firm. If we were to find for the representative firm and then aggregate up from there, that is another way we could find producer surplus. So with that, we've covered all three of the most important cost curves for the firm. Marginal cost is going to tell us how much the firm wants to produce to maximize their profits. That's that profit maximizing output curve. Average total cost tells the firm how much profit they're earning at that output maximizing amount, profit maximizing amount of output. And then average variable cost tells the firm whether they need to shut their doors in the short run, if they're earning a loss, or if they can keep operating. Okay, so you really want to learn what each of these curves tells you for the firm and its decision making and how they're different from each other. So with that, we're going to stop this video here. And the next one, we'll look at the distinction between costs in the short run and costs in the long run more explicitly.